Wheaton Park District Board of Park Commissioners to order. Mike, please take the roll.
Commissioner Schobel?
Here.
Commissioner Morrow?
Here.
Commissioner Meade?
Here.
Commissioner Hodgkinson?
Here.
President Kelly?
Here. First order of business, Mike, any presentations tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, community input. Is anybody signed up for community input?
No, sir.
Anybody here to address the board?
Maybe from the community here?
Is everybody an employee?
Pretty much.
Consent agenda, I need a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
We need to-
I don't think we can approve it as presented. We don't have the June 3rd workshop meeting minutes weren't in your board packet and they didn't come out, so we got to strike item B and approve A and
I'll
C.
amend my motion to strike item B, then approve items A and C.
Second, still good?
Second.
Okay. Mike, you got to call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Schobel?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Meade?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodgkinson?
Yes.
President Kelly?
Yes. Unfinished business, naming Casley Zoo Train Station the Douglas Depot after the late Larry Douglas. Jerry Douglas.
I'd
put my
like to make
glasses
that
on.
motion, please. Second.
Any discussion or comments?
We're going to have a dedication on September 19th, the Bobcat Bash, I think it's called this year.
Yep, Bobcat Bash, that's it.
And I hope people come.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Voice vote, right?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, passed. Buildings and grounds update on ongoing capital projects and approval of change orders. Okay. I'm gonna pass this.
You want me to do that, John?
Just pass them down. At last month's meeting, the board authorized me to sign a contract for the Gateway Gardens project. And with two caveats. One, that I pursue value engineering options in order to get the project within the original budget. And the second was to look into the scheduling as to whether or not we should accept the alternate for the acceleration. If you remember in Rob's first memo last time, he alluded to that the reason we were over budget was because there were some items of phase two that were going on in phase one. So before we met with the contractor, I had Rob go back and meet with the engineers and move the money from phase two for phase one for any work that's being performed in phase one instead of phase two. So what you got tonight was you got a revised memo showing that the original phase budget was 194 and the original phase two budget was 625 for a total of 819,000. But when we moved the phase two elements that are going to be completed under phase one into the phase one budget and we readjusted the two budgets, we really have a phase one budget of 276,895 and a phase two budget of 542,687. And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, that basically we moved some phase two path work into phase one, correct?
Correct.
So that all the paths are going to be in the first phase. So technically, our bid award of, I think it was 549, or 240, was actually under the 276 budget. Now, we also asked the contractor to look at the value engineering items that our consultant had come up with and agreed that we could make deductions at the unit costs that were provided in the bid. So the memo that you got last time that said we could bring it in budget by deleting certain plannings is still an option. However, Buildings and Grounds, after reviewing the new budgets and everything, is recommending we go with the whole job as it stands. But we can bring the cost down just by deleting plantings, but we're thinking finish phase one and have it look as nice as originally designed. And then if we have a problem with our phase two budget, we'll have to worry about pulling stuff out of that one in the next phase.
No,
So-
I'm with you guys. Do it right the first time.
Yep.
I mean, that's the problem we have with Arrowhead. People started V&E and stuff out that it should be there today. So,
Okay, so then, and that's the way it stands right now. We did sign the contract, and we will not issue a change order to take items out of phase one. We also had a kickoff meeting with our contractor in Bradford for coordination. And right now, the contract is that our contractor is supposed to be given access to the site by, by when? Monday. And does it look like that's going to happen, or it's going to be close?
saying it will at the moment. V3 is supposed to be out there surveying on Friday, so that's the trigger.
Bradford's done with their work, but we're requiring them to submit an as-built drawing that also has to go to the county, correct?
Ultimately.
Or after we're done it, but they have to show us that V3 has to confirm that we're getting it at the right grades so that our contractor isn't doing extra work. So hopefully, we're gonna have that this week, and the contractor will be able to start Monday, Tuesday. We should have no problem if we get the site finishing ahead of Bradford's opening, and that's the goal. So right now, it doesn't look like we're gonna need the acceleration, is it?
I talked with the contractor specifically, but
But his contract, if he gets the site on Monday, is the dates that were provided in the contract, in the bid package?
the bid package was that we were gonna give it to him a lot earlier than now, so we'd have to talk about that. The conversation that we had at the kickoff meeting was that if he could get in there and start working on portions of the site, then it shouldn't have been an issue. He was ready to get going and wanted to start working, so.
Okay, so we're gonna, if we give him the site on Monday, like we said, we're thinking we can make it without
we should be okay,
accelerating anything.
correct.
And that's what we're hoping for.
Certainly in advance of Mariano's opening.
Yeah. And they still don't have a firm date for that either. We asked, and they haven't established the date as best we can tell for that. The contractor may be working under one completion date, but we don't know that they've come up with a formal grand opening date yet. Anybody have any questions on that?
No.
Okay. And there's really no change on the Central Athletic Center. Bergen's still trying to clear the liens before he can come in for final payment, and we're still in negotiation on that sidewalk extra, correct?
Correct.
We didn't reach final agreement with him? Yeah, so, you may get something on that in the next month, it may be 2 months, but we have the building, and Bergen seems in no hurry to close the job out, so. I think that's it on buildings and grounds. So let's move to new business. Approval to fill a vacant full-time position. It's the athletic manager position.
Move to approve.
Second. Go ahead.
So Terry made the motion, Jane second?
That's fine.
Okay. Any questions, comments, discussion? Ray?
I just want to congratulate Ryan on his promotion, and it's nice to see staff have the opportunity to advance within the agency, and so good luck to Ryan.
Thanks.
And Mary Beth lost a good person. Oh, well.
We'll go find a new
I know you will.
new superstar for Maribel.
There you go.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Schobel,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Meade.
Yes.
Commissioner Hodgkinson.
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. New business item 2, approval of ordinance number 2013-06. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
That could be a voice vote, I think, when it's.
Just a question to Mike. Mike, remind us again how that stuff will be disposed of.
There's a couple items that we will endeavor to sell, and very few, based on our perceived value, although they're no longer useful or needed for the Park District's business. Most of the rest of it, which you'll see are obsolete technology, hardware and peripherals. We will offer it to local non-for-profits if they want to rebuild and use it as part of their program, such as People's Resource Center. Typically, though, we hang on to things long enough that even from a donation standpoint, it's garbage. So we will make that effort, but it's mostly going to wind up at the recycle outfit and get crunched up. I think that's in West Chicago somewhere.
Thank you.
Mark?
Some of those items that I saw in there are very, very old computer items. One of the things that DuPage County has for the senior center and all kinds of therapy deals, but they do have an organization that actually looks for the items like that to assist the seniors and so forth through their therapy. That might be an avenue that this would be right up their alley. The guy used to live right down the block, I forget the charity, but very good organization. I used to give all my office equipment.
Sure. Well, I can assure you that we will canvass the area, and just to, again, for the record, we're offering it to donate to local not-for-profits that are you
Reach
know,
out to
as
Maureen
opposed
McHugh.
to donating to just anybody that wants to pick it
Reach
up.
out to Maureen McHugh from the DuPage County Health Department. She would know exactly who to contact along those lines.
Well, you know,
So-
I noticed that the technology that's included in here is so old that not only is it not a floppy disk, it's a floopy disk. So I don't even think the seniors will be interested in a floopy disk.
That was like a Betamax,
You might be
same type of
surprised.
thing.
You might be surprised.
So just in case we
We'll do it.
didn't make it clear, this ordinance is for disposal of old and antiquated computer equipment and office machinery. Mike, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Hodgkinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Me.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel.
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. New business item 3, accepting proposals for the asphalt parking lots at 7 Gables and Hatton Park. I need a motion.
Make a motion to accept the bids from Abbey Paving in the amount of $495,000 plus a contingency.
What is that contingency amount?
We left the contingency blank.
We left it open so we could talk about it.
If we approve the base bid today, that's
Well, I'll
what we
second
want to
it, just so we
accomplish.
can talk about it.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's get the contract approved.
Yeah.
All right. So who's second, Terry?
Terry.
Terry. All right, any other discussion on the bids?
No.
Okay, Mike, take the roll.
Commissioner Hodgkinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Me.
Yes.
Commissioner Morrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Schobel.
Yes.
President Kelly.
Yes. Okay, in the past on these jobs where we're doing excavating or we're gonna run into something that might stop the job and we don't have time to wait for another board meeting, we've given the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee along with the architect of, the engineer of record to make recommendations to approve. We're looking at our friend Unsuitable Soil again. I drove both parking lots this morning so that I could see what kind of shape they were in. Or yesterday morning, I should say. And the park at 7 Gables does not have a ton of settlement. It has a lot of alligatoring, but it doesn't look like the subbase has really been that compromised. There are a few areas at Atten Park around some of the drains where it looked like we got a decent amount of settlement. So I think we will either run into some unsuitable or have to bring in some additional stone and do some compaction. Our recommendation is going to be that we hire, staff put together this bid package, so we didn't use an outside consultant. They did it in accordance with our other asphalt replacement projects. But our recommendation is that we hire a soils consultant, somebody who's normally does work for us, and that he's present during the proof rolls. And certainly we want to limit unsuitable soil removal, to a minimum, and I'd be more in the center of the roadways, but not in the parking spaces and stuff like that. So, some people think it should be 10%. The recommendation from staff was a $50,000 contingency that we can approve up to without coming back to the board. If you're not comfortable with that, we can do something smaller. That's why I left that open so we could have discussion on it tonight.
If I may, if you choose to approve a contingency, it would just be a subsequent vote on the same item.
Right, but Rob, that's work scheduled to start pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
late
not
September,
October.
late September,
So if you
early
want to
October.
think about it, we'd come back and do that when we have the full board here at next month's meeting. But we should have some kind of authority for the people that are involved in the project, so we don't have to call an emergency meeting to say, go ahead and take the soil out when we got the full crew sitting there,
Remind me, what was the amount that was originally budgeted for both the parks?
Well, we have a $500,000 a year is what's budgeted in our, right,
Asphalt
we're doing
replacement.
we do asphalt replacement at $500,000 a year.
Yeah, I thought I read it.
Now, last year, we spent considerably less, right?
Yeah, we didn't spend anything on the budget last year because part of that was the issue with the paths that we're going to be spending this year.
Okay. So, and that's something we need to talk about in our asphalt budget. If we're gonna budget a $500,000 each year and we don't spend the money, should we transfer it and upgrade the next year's line item, the next year's budget? That just flowed into what I would call profit, but it flowed into less increased revenues last year, and we only have the $500,000 budgeted this year. So we're under the $500,000 on the base bid, but we could run into some extra work. The cost of the testing lab can come out of our consulting budget, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. The contingency of 50,000.
So,
It's
you know,
about 10%.
it's 10%. So if we want to do that, we could put that into the motion and give the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee, along with staff, the authority to approve changes up to 50,000 based on unsuitable.
I'm good to do that. That's my motion.
And I'm good on second with an amendment.
Okay.
And again, we would come back to the board subsequent to the change order being executed to formally ratify the expense.
Right.
And I understand that we're putting off the cart path asphalting, done, Mike?
That's correct.
Okay.
I thought that was coming out of your heads.
Wow.
It requires further review. We, essentially, if I may, President Kelly, what we did is we put a line in the water by adding a linear foot cost alternate in case somebody came back with the successful bidder came back with a stellar deal for us to replace sections of the cart path. Between the Arrowhead Subcommittee and the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee, I think that, and staff, I think that there's agreement that there's a larger project ahead of us as opposed to piecemealing it. So it's something that we're going to, between the two committees, bring back to the board with a possibility of a larger 3-year project.
Mark?
Well, I talked to John this morning, and, we got to the conclusion that, especially the west course, for some reason, we think we've got unsuitable soils there, and the base isn't as good as opposed to the east and the west. I mean, the east and the south, sorry. My suggestion was if there's any kind of risks there, we hazards or to the public, that we repair those within our maintenance crew. Certainly we can do that. I already talked to Mike that if you need some kind of structure, I can certainly find a donor to give you the immediate, basically, structure to get underneath the asphalt so that, it's not just going right through. But I think it's the prudent thing to do, that why patch it when, you spend that kind of money and you're going to come back and you have